Good evening. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. I am Heather Peffley, clerk for the City of Manistee. The City Council's February 9th, 2021 work session being conducted remotely, where all members of the City Council are in separate locations and not at the City Hall Council chambers, will be called to order by Mayor Roger Zielinski shortly. As always, this work session is being recorded and will be broadcast on Manistee TV cable channels 189 and 190, and also available at manisteetv.org. City Council and city staff will have video and audio available for this work session. Members of the public will be audio only. The microphones of all members of the City Council, City Manager, and City Clerk will always be live unless there's an audio disruption. Mayor Zielinski, we are ready to proceed with the meeting.
Thank you, Heather. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll take public comments on work session related items. Each person in the virtual waiting room will be called individually by the city clerk by the last 4 digits of their telephone number. Individuals will be asked if they have a comment or if they are passing. Again, it's very important that those giving comments have a good phone connection and no sound or noise in the background, such as television or other forms of audio. Otherwise, there will be a disruptive audio. If this issue cannot be corrected by the caller, we'll move on to the next person in line. Work session items, discussion topics tonight are annual RRC board and commission discussion to identify and prioritize redevelopment sites, discussion on food trucks, discussion on safe built rental program, discussion on sidewalk and streets, or sidewalk and trees. We'll now take public comments, Heather.
Okay, my computer just froze for a moment, but I think I'm back. Okay, so it looks like I have several members of the public. Please, if you are calling with a phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Once I see that you have done so, I will ask to unmute you, and then you will hit *6 to unmute yourself. I have somebody else coming in. Okay, so is there anybody who wishes to make a public comment at this time? *9 to raise your hand. We'll give you a couple opportunities. Again, *9 to raise your hand. I've got a few more in the waiting room I'll let in. Give me 1 second. *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. Give me 1 second. I just have 2 more people coming in. For those of you just joining, if you would like to make a comment, please press *9 at this time to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute yourself. I'm showing 7 telephone numbers. I have telephone number 1981. If you would like to make a comment, please press *6. Telephone number 4150. We have 9561 8378 0319 6477 or 0442. Please, instead of me trying to unmute all of you, it takes time. If you could press *6. Going once. Oh my goodness, there's more. Hold on. There's more that want to come in. Mayor, would you like me to, I have a few more that just joined. I will real quick give those just joining us, if they would like to make a comment. We are in the public comment section of the meeting. Press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute yourself. Telephone number 0442, do you have a comment? I see you have unmuted.
No.
No comment? Okay, thank you. Okay, Mayor, I think we're ready to go. I don't hear any public comments.
Thank you, Heather. We're going to kind of go out of order a little bit tonight. We're going to go down to E, discussion on sidewalks and trees. Mr. Makula.
Thank you, Mary Zelinsky. Just wanted to provide a couple updates since we talked about this previously, these two items. First of all, on the sidewalk program, as I mentioned before, we have been budgeting about $20,000 per year, 10,000 for majors, 10,000 for locals, and have been progressing through the city. We're probably about a third of the way through with the trip hazard replacements. But based on council's discussion, we will be proposing in the upcoming budget, in addition of $5,000 to that 20,000 to further this program along. So we'll get 25% more work done. In addition to that, we are going to be proposing a pilot project where we budget a second $5,000 addition and would make that available to residents who want to upgrade the sidewalks in front of their properties, but are not scheduled for the upgrades that the Public Works is doing. And we would invite that on a 50-50 participation, because as you're aware, the ordinance requires that the property owners actually maintain and keep the sidewalks upgraded. But we would match, let's say somebody wants to replace a few slabs, the cost would be $300. The homeowner would pay $150, and we would use that $5,000 as match money to complete the replacement. That way, if residents are, several years out and want to complete the work ahead of time, it'll be done that way. Our intention would be to bid this out annually with a contractor so that we would be able to forecast how much work could be done on that 50-50 match program. And then we would take it on a first come, first serve basis. So if that money gets used up, we would keep them on the list for the following year and just continue on with it. And then in future years, we can judge the participation. And if we need to raise that dollar amount or even lower it, we could do that on an annual basis.
Any questions for Mr. Makula on that subject?
This is Mick Szymanski. I think that's a great idea, Mr. Makula. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious how much money you really need to finish off all the trip hazards. How far does, $10,000 or $12,500 go for local streets?
Well, yeah, what we've been, just to recap, what we do is we've been contracting out about $10,000 a year to do sidewalk cutting, where the trip hazards are less than 2 inches. Then we can actually cut and modify the existing sidewalk without doing a full removal and replacement. And that costs about a quarter of the cost of complete replacement. The other 10,000, the Public Works crews have been following the cutting, and anything that's over that 2 inches or just isn't a candidate for the cutting, then we've been doing the removal and replacements. I don't have a total number of trip hazards remaining, but I can tell you that we're eliminating between 550 and 650 a year. So another $5,000 conceivably gets us another 100 to 150 a year further. And then I would say the 5,000 that's going towards the residents, that's a $10,000 investment potentially if it's matched 100%. But if we contract it out, we'll probably reduce the amount of the trip hazards, and so we may be talking that 150 to 200.
Okay, so if you eliminated 800 trip hazards, I'm just throwing that number out because I didn't write the numbers down. 800 trip hazards out this year and the next budget year, how many do you think are really left? I mean, you must have some idea what the number.
Well, we've been doing the current program for 4 years now. We've removed everything from the north side, north of the river. We have also completed from the river south and primarily Maple Street to the west and up to probably Elm Street. There's not a lot of sidewalks up around the Jefferson School area. And right now we're down to about 9th Street. So, like I said, we've probably got a third of the city done. So there's probably 6-8 years of that program at a minimum to go.
Oh, okay.
Mr. McCullough, would it be safe to assume that just because of our winter-like weather, the heaving and the thawing and freezing, that type of thing it's a continual problem is what I'm trying to say. There's going to be more added every year.
Yeah, I mean, they occur every year. You're correct with the freeze thaw. The boulevard trees probably have the most impact when those trees get mature and the roots get underneath the sidewalk panels. Typically that'll raise them up, and that's what most of the hazards are caused from.
Okay. I just noticed in my yard that last year that was nice and smooth. You leveled them off nice, no trip hazards. And through the winter last year, I got some heaving. They just seem to come back.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sunset to this program. It's kind of like maintaining streets. We're playing a lot of catch up. I think the methods that we're using today are much better than the methods that we used in the past. And so there's always going to be maintenance of the sidewalks to do. That's just kind of a perpetual program. This is just to eliminate the trip hazards. So the next phase of this, once we get through the entire city, would be to replace broken sidewalks and then also to fill in gaps where there are no sidewalks. So it'll be work done forever.
Any other questions on the topic of
Yes.
I've got a couple questions. I'm just wondering, like, how long this has been an ordinance, because I just assumed like it was like something that our tax dollars paid for. Every city that I've ever lived in, it was like they would just come and fix it, based on your property taxes. So I have that question. And then, so if there is like over by Sibin and 4th, I think, like there's not even a sidewalk. So if they wanted to put in a sidewalk there, would they be responsible to put in the whole sidewalk?
The ordinance does not address the construction of sidewalk. It simply addresses the maintenance of it. What we've offered people probably in the past 6-7 years is if they wanted to add sidewalk, that they would pay for half of that cost. And we've been doing that. We've done that probably 4 or 5 times. The question on the ordinance, I don't know if the city attorney, if he's present, could answer that, but that's been the standing ordinance for what I believe decades.
Okay. That it's just new to me. I thought it was odd that it was on the homeowner's responsibility to pay for the sidewalk.
Jermaine, the ordinance has been in effect as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. McCullough? Go ahead, Linda.
I just wanted to clarify something. The reason I'm asking these questions about the sidewalks, I want to make sure that we get through the whole city before we completely start over again. I know it's ongoing, but what happens is sometimes people see, you know, work happening in the same area that's happened before, and they complain, and probably with some, I have sympathy for them because they want to make sure that everybody's treated fairly. So if you've got a plan to go through the city section by section and we just haven't finished it yet, I understand that a lot better.
That is the current program.
Okay. Thanks.
And another point to make, still responding to Councilwoman Sipsick, the money that we use for sidewalks is actually Act 51 money. It's the same money that we use to maintain and upgrade the streets. And we're required to spend a small portion of that money each year on non-motorized activities. We're spending more than that, but it's always a balance between, you know, do you want more asphalt put down or sidewalks upgraded? So so we're looking to, or we're proposing to enhance that in the upcoming budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McCool on sidewalk? You want to address trees, Mr. McCool?
Yeah, so last week the city manager forwarded the ordinance establishing, or in regards to trees, and also the bylaws for the tree commission, and the form that residents can fill out requesting a tree to be cut or removed. And if you reviewed that material, it does not exclude a request from a property owner. It doesn't really give any limitations on what they can request the cutting or the tree removal for. So if it was for a problem with a sewer lateral, or a problem because it's a nuisance tree, or whatever the case may be, there's no restrictions on what can be requested and why. And the tree commission has the ability to make those reviews and then make the determination on what happens to those trees. So our last discussion was maybe we should amend and give them that broader authority. And I just kind of wanted to point out as an update that I think that authority already exists, and it's up to the Standing Tree Commission.
Any questions on that subject?
I've got one, Mr. McCullough. One of my constituents was the one who complained about the poplar tree that was interfering with their sewer system for several years. And I understand that the ordinance does state that poplar trees are prohibited in the right-of-way area. Is that correct?
Correct. And well, I believe it reads that it's prohibited from being planting, but that existing trees at the time of the ordinance adoption were exempt. If I was making that request to have the tree removed, I would certainly point that out, that it's a prohibited tree and it's prohibited because it is a nuisance. And and then most of the time when these requests come in, the people don't come to the tree commission to address them in person. So, they always have the ability to do that and present the reasons and the rationale for the request.
Okay, well, this is good information to get back to them with. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that has any questions for Mr. McCullough on the trees? Any other questions at all? Hearing none, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. We're going to move on to the annual RC board and commission discussions, identify and prioritize redevelopment sites.
I had such a great warm up for you all. Thank you very much. I did not realize that I had had unmuted. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. This is Mark Miller from the Chamber, and we have a presentation for you tonight about the Redevelopment Ready Community Program. The City of Manistee is certified in this program, and it has a great deal of benefits to the community. One thing it does is signal to potential developers that we're transparent, that we have best management practices in place, and that we have an opportunity here for potential development. And then we try to make it easy for developers to come here and to utilize sites. And so the Chamber feels very strongly that this is an important program. I have asked tonight Dan Leonard from the MEDC to join us in case there are any harder questions about the program. So he's with us and can join in. One thing that we've done with this presentation tonight is to ask a number of boards and commissions to join us. So I want to thank those members who responded to the emails that I sent out and the links from Heather to join in. I will move on to this next slide and show you some progress here. So our 2020 RRC sites are all under contract or development or being considered for development. And this is a fantastic bit of progress, but you can see we have the Downtown Gateway project included. For Fracano's on the Manistee River purchased the boathouse. Johnson Funeral Home is now purchased and being redeveloped and reused. And then also with our River Water housing development project from Oceana County Housing Commission, 2 other sites are under development or at least under contract to be developed. So, and then finally, the Ironworks project is also being considered and used. So a lot of progress here in Manistee on our RRC sites. What we need to do to be recertified for this program is to ask the public and boards and commissions to reprioritize and give us 6 more so that we can work with the MEDC and have the availability for grants, for potential partnership, bringing new developers in to look at these sites and also market and promote the sites. So I'd like to take you into the next piece here. With that reprioritization, these are the 6 boards and commissions, including the city council, that we've asked. Again, the process for us was to send out an email to everyone, provide them the link. We also have provided everyone with a survey link to help us with the reprioritization. So you see here which commissions and boards we asked to join us. Some of them are on, members of some of those are on the call tonight. We'd like to ask everyone to prioritize 6 sites. That's the magic number that MEDC has kind of given us. We've taken a little bit of an approach to provide some diversity, to show potentially developers a wide range of opportunities here and try to fit what their needs might be. There are US 31 corridor locations to beautify our important transportation corridor. There are sites downtown within the DDA district. We also have one on the north end, and the Peninsula District, Maxwell Town, is also represented here in the industrial corridor, their industrial site. I'll take you through a quick spin of some of these for your consideration. Northern Hotel is one of our projects. Our priority projects is back on the market for redevelopment. It has been a priority site in the past. It's in the opportunity zone, which is an additional incentive. We also started with Molly Whetstone termination to see if this might be eligible for Oprah. So we have that site is one of the priorities that you can choose from. We also have the the Jones Dairy Building, which right now is under consideration for the River Water Project. But the owner asked or gave me consent to put this on and keep this on the list. And so we have this one for your consideration. Also, a very important piece of the west end of River Street. In the middle of River Street, we have also talked to the realtor here about the vault, what's known as the vault. Also in the opportunity zone, this property would be a really good example for a developer to come in and do historic preservation or rehab and put it back into use for a variety of reasons. Great space, lots of space with that. We also received word this afternoon that the board for the seniors has given us permission to use their site, 8 acres for redevelopment, and put this back into the spotlight. There still is an opportunity, as I stated last week during the economic development report, that this could be developed by the Oceana Housing Commission folks, but let's put it out there for potential development. See if there's anyone else who might be able to make that work for potential housing or senior housing projects. We also have next to the vault 350 River Street or River Street Station. It is for sale by owner. Also, an important piece downtown, and also those two properties adjoin each other. Maybe some potential there for redevelopment, but wanted to point out that that's one of the potential properties that we can highlight through the RRC program. We also have some US 31 vacant lots, 30 Arthur Street, which is just to the north of the Dunegrass retail establishment. It's vacant, mostly vacant. The blue barn is part of the lot, but the property is for sale and it's an important transportation corridor. Also vacant, we've paired these two together for prioritization purposes. 152 Cleveland and 145 Harrison, they're across the side streets from each other, both vacant and for sale in our US 31 corridor. Oh, I should not pass over this one. So this is 11 Cypress Street, recently vacated by the Chamber of Commerce. We still own the building and we'll be putting it up for sale. We could have that as a potential redevelopment site. It is adjacent across US 31 from the downtown Gateway proposed project and could be considered phase 2 if plans move forward towards the east. So that's a potential for redevelopment that might be of interest to a potential developer. All right. The glass factory is at 64 Arthur Street. Spoke to the owner on this property as well. And it could be potentially redeveloped or be used for development. So we wanted to throw this one up there too. Again, another US 31 corridor. Also, a recent addition here is the Family Video Building. Could be rehabbed, has an existing tenant. Of course, we're not expecting that tenant to go anywhere, but the Family Video site could be redeveloped and the whole building could be rehabbed. It's an opportunity for redevelopment along US 31. Then we have a different type of property here, 4 acres at 51 9th Street in the old Century Boat Assembly area on Manistee Lake. Could be something that might work for some industrial applications. And we wanted to throw that in there for consideration and for prioritization. Spoken to the owner there as well, and it is for sale, and he is eager to be a part of the program if it's warranted. So those are 11 sites that we've identified, some of them coming from our past RRC work, some of them are new, and many of them have some strategic applications. The opportunity for us is to promote these sites to developers, and that's part of what would be a good good way to think about your prioritization. What are the highest impact potential that we could use the MEDC resources to market, to work on, to do renderings and receive grants on for that kind of work? How might we tackle those, and which would be the highest impact and best use of that particular state program? Again, we only have the opportunity to promote 6 at a time, at least for this round. So there is the opportunity, but there might be something that we've missed. There might be something that we've overlooked. So there'll be an opportunity for the boards, commissions, and city council members to suggest additional sites. This afternoon, we put out a survey link through email to everyone, and would invite you to use that survey link to give your ranking. You can rank 1 through 10, 1 being the highest priority, 10 being the least. We'll tabulate all of that and be part of the public record. So it will be something that we will share with the city for record keeping purposes. If there are any individuals who have not received the link, who's on a board or a commission, please use my email address to contact me, development@manisteechamber.com. And I'd also invite anyone from who is a member of the public who's not appointed to a board or commission. If you would like to participate in this link, we'll take your input as well. You can email me again at development@manisteechamber.com for that link, and we'll send it out to you. That is my presentation. I'll stop sharing here and see if there are any questions for myself, and if necessary for Dan Leonard from MEDC.
Do we have any questions, council?
You know, we've worked on this list. It seemed like maybe it was a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago. I'm not quite sure. Time flies when you're having fun. But it is good to see the progress with a number of the buildings. I do have one thought for an addition, and I don't want to scare anybody, but every time I go by the Waterworks building on First Street, I think to myself, wow, this is such an amazing building. It has so much potential. It has, again, a lot of history to the building, plus there's, property alongside. If a developer was interested, then we could turn around and buy something like the video store and turn that into the museum space and exchange it. The current facility is, again, not getting any better with age. It is getting to be pretty rough. It's only opened, a few days a year. And the other concern that I have is that a lot of the property in there doesn't seem to be faring very well. And I'm assuming that's because it would be incredibly expensive to properly heat and air conditioning a facility like that. So I just thought that it may have some real potential. And again, the revenues that we would be gaining from the city, we could look at then reinvesting in another property that may be as suitable to a facility like this.
Any other comments, questions from council?
I just had a couple, and they're quick. On your first slide that you put up, you had 480 River Street and the Ironworks building, and you said 480 River Street has a new owner on it. Do you have any idea what they're going to do with 480 River Street?
I
Muted.
I wish, I feel a little bit uncomfortable divulging any information before it's been released. But I hate to do that, but I just feel like I'd be stealing somebody's thunder. So let me check with the owner and see if I can get back to you, Councilman.
Okay, and then same question for the Ironworks building. Now I know that was purchased a few years ago. When you say new owner, are you referring to that new owner or a different new owner?
There, there's a, there is a new owner there from a couple years ago, is what I believe.
So this is still the same
Yeah.
company that wants to do 49% marijuana grow
Yep.
and other things in there. Okay,
Have some mixed use in there. So that's still the plan.
okay, thanks. I won't bother you anymore on it.
Yep. So, but I will also tell you that they're also doing industrial storage. So that's another component that they're using that for at the moment to tide them over. So we have some multiple uses going on there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Miller?
Another, Justin, one more other possibility is the property that used to be the former Olson property, the multiple buildings across the street from Veterans Park. I know that there is businesses there, but at one time that was looked at as an ideal building site, as well as developing it into more than, you know, a couple of big boxes in a parking lot. And I don't believe the Olson family has sold that property yet. I think it's still theirs and under lease by all the people that are currently in the properties.
Anybody else?
I had one suggestion. What about the building that Stacy's Flowers was in and First Street Station? Is there anything going on with that building?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can check on that for you to see. That actually would not be a bad location for some additional development.
Yeah.
Councilwoman, would it be possible when you fill out your survey to slip that into the survey?
I did.
You did already. Fantastic. Okay. That goes for everyone else. Great suggestions from all of you on this. Please use the survey to kind of remind me. I'm taking notes, but it does help when we do the packaging for the public record, if you can put that into the survey.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to discussion on food trucks. City Manager, Mr. Taylor.
Muted.
About 3 years ago, Denise Blakesley, who was our planning and zoning director, worked and put together a pretty extensive concept for mobile food trucks, mobile food vending throughout the city. A presentation was made to City Council, and at that time, there didn't seem to be the appetite for council to move forward on that, other than allow those in the downtown development authority area. I think with the fact that we've had no problems with food trucks, other vending downtown, it's been very accepted. I think it's time to revisit that. And I just wanted to see if there was enough interest by council to revisit that. We have a good framework. I'd have to look at it a little bit more, but I didn't want to put a lot of time and effort into it if council wasn't interested in having mobile vending throughout the city. So just wanted to get some direction. If you're interested, I'll dust off the information and schedule a presentation for council.
Council, do we have interest?
I would be interested.
I'm interested.
I think I'm interested too.
I'd be.
For me.
James, you're muted.
Oh, let me get him unmuted.
Okay, you're unmuted, James.
Okay, I'm interested in it too.
One thing that I did notice though, when I was looking through is we talk about vending being no closer than 1 block away from events and things like that. my suggestion is that we would make it 100 yards rather than a block, because it's not really precise enough. Blocks differ in size, so if we put a distance limit, I think that would be more accurate and easier just to manage. But I like the idea overall. So.
Okay, so then I'll put some work into it and get it on a future agenda.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor?
Thank you.
Moving along, discussion on safe build rental program. Steve, you're up.
Good evening. I'm Steve Haugen, a building official for the city of Manistee. And my coworker Kelly is going to go through the first couple of steps of things for you, and then I'll take over after she's done.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mayor Zielinski. Thank you, City Manager Taylor and Honorable Council. I'm Kelly Lindsay, and I'm the account manager for Safe Built. I've met some of you, and some of you have new faces. Hello. Thank you for giving us a platform this evening. I'm going to simply put 3 sections together in the presentation, and after each section, we can do a Q&A, or at the end of all of them, we can do a Q&A, whatever pace you'd like to take. The first segment is, what is the rental program? The second is, what are the rental program objectives and benefits of enforcement? And lastly, how is enforcement carried out? So what is the rental program? Through the city ordinance, the rental program is enforced, and the standards by which the program is enforced is the International Property Maintenance Code, otherwise known as the IPMC, which the city has adopted. And the rental inspection cycle is every 3 years. And we have a map of the city which outlines the division of quadrants for those inspections. And if I could share my screen, I could show you that map. One moment.
We see it, Kelly. It's there.
You do. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yep.
Thank you. So this cycle 1 and 2 and 3, this was genius and established by the former enforcing agency, Spicer Group. And we, for continuity's sake and less impact to property owners, etc., we continued on with that same quadrant and the same cycle. So there was really no interruption of services. And you'll see that cycle 1 is the years 18 to 21, cycle 2, 19 to 22, etc. And I wanted to share that with you, just so you had an idea of how we move through the city. And that is the end of segment 1. What is the rental program? Are there any questions?
Any questions, Council?
I've got one. Is the 3-year inspection cycle, is that standard, or is that something that is particular to Manistee?
It's standard. I would say that in my experience, we enforce rental programs in multiple communities in Michigan, and they're typically a 2-year cycle.
2-year.
And 2-year. We also have 1-year cycles for areas that are lakeshore communities who experience a higher volume of residents within the summer months. They want to keep a handle on that a little closer. And so they're more aggressive with the enforcement. And also that would tie into short-term rentals as well. So Thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Can we change that to every 2 years? Or does it have to be 3 years? Because, I mean, it's no secret that you're inheriting a mess. So I think that every 3 years is a little extensive. I think 2 years would help, go through a lot faster than some of these.
Mr.
Thank you.
Taylor?
Thank you, Councilwoman Sipsick.
Yeah, I was going to just offer that it's an ordinance, and certainly council can look at that ordinance, and if they'd like the time frame shortened, just let us know and we can take a look at that and bring you back something to consider.
Okay.
Thank you, City Manager Taylor. Anything else on section 1?
Before we
Okay.
move forward, Council, would you like to see that change from 3 to 2 years? Any opinions?
Yes, I would.
Anybody
I
else?
like
idea.
I agree too.
Anybody else?
Yep,
Yes.
Lubetsky, I'd like to see it changed.
I also,
No, that's an added tax to pay for another set of inspections.
Who is that?
I didn't, that wasn't talked.
No, that was a member of the public, and this is not time for public comment, so.
What would be the added tax on that?
I'm assuming,
expense maybe, but there wouldn't be a new tax.
no, there's probably a fee for the person applying for the rental property to pay the inspection fee. I'm assuming that's what that comment was
Right, I
about.
would assume that too.
It's worth looking into and figuring out what that is.
Yep.
Particularly with blight, it'll help.
Yes.
Yes.
You have enough consensus, Mr. Taylor?
I heard it loud and clear. I'll get with the city attorney and see what we can bring back.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Zielinski. So secondly, what are the objectives and benefits of enforcing a rental program? Well, through the registration of rentals, we're able to track ownership changes. And through inspections, we're able to ensure that life safety standards are being met for the occupants. Generally speaking, a rental program can benefit a community in multiple ways, and above all, the life safety of the tenants. And also, that's certainly the main objective. And then it's also an improvement of the housing stock. With a smoothly running program, we find that neighborhoods are improved, and while at the same time, blight cases typically decrease. And some communities experience improved property values. If the program's running properly, it's typically a self-funded situation, which benefits all involved, meaning taxpayers who don't own rental properties are not in any way funding the program. And only those property owners choosing to have tenants are charged the program fees. And also through a rental program, often insight is gained to rental density within a community, which can be essential data for community leaders for reporting purposes. And that's a general overview of why. Are there any questions on that particular segment?
Yes. Are you making a distinction between short-term rentals and long-term rentals?
At this time, we're developing that distinction through one of the forms that Stephen Haugen will share with you in a moment at the end of our at the third segment. And so we don't have a short-term rental program exactly. It's not in your language yet, but I see that probably something that we will be working toward.
Any other questions? I don't hear any.
Thank you, Mayor Zelinski. I failed to introduce Paul Featherston, your state manager. He's joined us this evening, as well as Stephen Haugen. And I'll hand the meeting over to you, Stephen, and I've covered the program and why the rental is good for, program's good for a community. He'll cover the operational pieces. So you have a picture of how it's enforced within the city. And I thank you for this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm going to start by showing you some information with the forms that we hand out when we're doing the rental program. So let me share the screen with you here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll start with the rental inspection program and the fees. You see that form there?
No, we do
No
not. We're
form
seeing
yet.
the other screen. You're gonna have to go back to your screen sharing once the form is opened and then share your screen.
Okay.
Oh. Was it almost there?
I don't know what happened.
Try to stop sharing your screen and then open that file. And then when you go to share screen, choose that file to share.
Okay. Where that came from. So share that there. Did that pop up?
Nothing yet.
Okay. We see that there, right?
Nope, there's nothing.
Nothing there at this point.
No. And the ability is still there to share screen, so. There you go. I think it's coming. Nope, it's still just showing your file, your list of files.
Yep, that's what I'm. Do you see that one there now?
No,
No.
we're just seeing your list. That's why I said you have to open the file and then when you go to share
Alright.
screen, choose that file, that
Okay.
picture or that PDF to share.
Sorry about that.
What?
Steve, this is Paul. Is this maybe something, I'm sorry to interrupt, is this something maybe that you could email to each of the council members? If it's not coming up on the screen, we don't want to waste on their time right now.
Yeah, let me try this again, Paul.
Okay.
There you go.
Now you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I got it. So that's our rental inspection program sheet that talks about the city ordinance. It talks about the fees, talks about the registration, the program application, the rental program contact form, the rental registration, and this is on the website, so they go in and they can just press those and it brings up those forms. It brings up the inspections are performed on a 3-year cycle, and it has a state of Michigan place you can go to for that.
So looking at those fees real quick, I just got a question.
Yep.
If everything goes the way it's supposed to be, then the fee is $130.
The fee would be $90 for the inspection, and it's a $40 registration fee. The registration fee is a one-time fee.
One time, okay. So 130 for the first year, and there would be 90 every year as long as they're in compliance with the requirements.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I've got a question. The $200 and the $400 fee for it not being registered.
Yes.
That seems kind of low. Like it's kind of, is that standard or?
There's really no standard in how these are put together, and you guys approve those fees. So if there's a change in how that happens, then that's something that you guys have to approve or disapprove.
Okay.
And could I interject, Councilwoman Sipsick? That's a good question and a great observation, because the fees for registration, inspection, and reinspection, or a missed and broken schedule, those 4 fees are very low. According to industry standard, those are very low. On the other side of that column there, the unregistered rental, second notice, reinspection fee, those types of fees, we worked with the city because they weren't in place at all. That there was seemingly really no, real consequence, I guess, for non-compliance. And so we worked to establish those. But we did come in with the exact fees that were from the former group that was enforcing, and we did that for continuity's sake again. But if you're visiting a more aggressive program, these fees can be part of that topic.
Okay. I absolutely think it needs to be higher, because $200 is nothing. I mean, they'll just pay it, and what, they're going to wait another year and then get another $200 fine. I mean, I think it needs to be higher.
And that's only if they're caught.
Exactly.
We just went over this at a council meeting not
Yep.
too long ago, and we doubled
Right.
those fees. So does
Yeah.
this sheet, is this sheet reflective of the change that we just recently made?
Yes.
Yes. Except we left the original fees alone. The per unit fees on the left column that you see, those were left alone. Sorry, Stephen, for interjecting. Thank you.
Oh,
Please.
that's no problem. Every help is wonderful. And that's not the only ramification from, not having that. There's also civil infraction, penalties that can be done with citations, which of course the fees are set in that by the courts.
I got one more question.
Yes.
Is there a fine? I got a couple months back, you sent me over the checklist of what you inspect and stuff like that. And I didn't see anything on there regarding homeowners insurance. And I think there needs to be something like every time that they have to register or re-register, they have to give you a current copy of homeowners insurance, because I know personally that there's probably a dozen houses by 2 owners in this town that do not have homeowners insurance on them in their rentals. So I'm just wondering if that can be added to part of the criteria that they have to give you an updated homeowners insurance policy, or at least the deck page.
As you work through the changes, Councilwoman Sipsick, or the changes that were mentioned, you can customize this program. It's a locally controlled
Okay.
enforcement. So,
Okay.
Yeah, that is something that you would have to put in your ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor, is that something you could check out with the city attorney to see if it's something we can do or not?
Yes, I've noted that. I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on to the second one. And that is our checklist, our property checklist. We look at the exterior, basements, interior, smoke detectors, electric, plumbing, and the windows. The code's pretty specific on, how that stuff is. This is just a general checklist. It's not everything that is included in the International Property Maintenance Code. But it does give us something to, go by and look for the most problem areas that we find in rentals.
I have a question.
Okay.
On your room sizes, we've got 7 by 7.
Uh-huh.
You've just got room sizes. You don't make a distinction between bathrooms and other rooms.
No, the code's pretty specific in room sizes anyhow. And the problem you run into is some of these homes are older homes code. So there may be some that have smaller room sizes than what is in that code section. But if it's a bedroom or something like that, it has to be a specific size. So they could be using, a closet size room for a bedroom or something like that.
So
those are
just
occupiable spaces.
for a rental though, they have to have a bedroom or a bathroom that's 7 by 7 minimum.
Yes. Actually, you'd be surprised what you can get into a 7 by 7. You can get because they have to have a shower or a bathtub, a sink and a toilet in that room, and they all have to comply with the code. So it's conceivable that you could have a fairly small bathroom.
I have a question.
Yes.
We've been talking a lot about blight, and I couldn't read your form. I couldn't see the form very well on my screen. Exterior, what do you look at on the exterior?
Everything. So I look at the siding, I look at the roofing, I look at the around the house. If there's debris, I look at everything. And I take pictures. So every house that I look at, I take pictures so that I have something to refer back to during this program so that we can see if something's changing from the outside.
So you would report a blighted condition in your opinion, if it was blighted?
Yes. Yep. If there's something blighted, then I'd turn it over to the authority that handles the blights.
Mayor, if I could make a comment?
Absolutely.
And I know this week, I think it was yesterday morning, Chief Glass and Steve had a lengthy and very productive meeting at my request to make sure that there's some interface between Steve and the department. So Steve is gonna, in effect, be another set of eyes for blight. So they're setting up a process whereby when he inspects, if he sees and notes areas of blight, he can forward those to the police department. It might be something we're already aware of, or it might be something we aren't aware of. So we're looking at this program as dual function, not only just the inspection, but as a course of an inspection, if there's blight noted, that we can get the police department involved.
And Chief Glass and I, we talked for about 2 hours, and we have a lot of information. We're going to switch back and forth so that it helps us both. It was a very productive.
Information. Appreciate that.
Yep.
I got a quick question. I don't really know who wants to answer it. So if you have a house that has, you know, junk cars and the siding's falling off and there's garbage, and that's part of your requirements for a rental, couldn't you just fine that homeowner instead of turning it over to the blight officers? Wouldn't that save, you know, a lot more time? Having you just tell them, you know, hey, you're not in compliance. You've got so many days to clean this up.
If it's in the rental ordinance, yes.
Okay.
That would have to be in the rental ordinance. About the cars.
Okay, but it kind of goes with your checklist. Like some blight issues are on your checklist. Like they kind of coincide with each other.
Yep.
So you can just tell them without having to contact the blight officer, hey, you know.
Yes, if it's
rentals.
Yes, if it's within the ordinance, we have that power, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Could you give us a few examples of inspection failures for health and safety that you've come upon since you've been doing this?
Sure, I have that later in my presentation.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, I'll move on to the next form. Any other questions?
I think we're good, Steve.
You see that form there?
Yes.
Yes.
That form is the rental registration application. That's the one-time $40 fee for registering a property as long as you're the owner of it. And you can see, if you see at the bottom, the entries I just put in that are highlighted in yellow. Please indicate for each unit address in notes whether the unit is long-term or short-term vacation rental. So that's one way we're trying to accomplish and see where we're going with that situation at this point. And also on the inspections that I've been doing here in the last few weeks, I also make notes of that in my inspection report, whether it's long-term or short-term rental property. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll move on to the next one. That's the same one, isn't it?
Yes.
Let me see here. This here is the rental program contact form, and this is what we schedule the inspections by. This is what the homeowner fills out and sends into us with the units that they have and who their caretaker is or themselves, and then have the rental address in there. And then the inspections are at the bottom of the page. And you can see that I also have on that, so that they put in the notes. I also applied the long-term and short-term to that file too, so that we can have it if they're already in the program and not putting in for the first time. This would be for any inspection that they're doing. Is there any questions on that? Okay. This here is a violation notice that was sent out for items requiring repair. This was one that was actually sent out. I took the address off and stuff like that. And it goes through the administration part of it for the violations, the notices and orders, and for the International Property Maintenance Code. And on the right-hand side, you can see the requirements, 307.1, and then in red, I put what needed to be taken care of. And then for the section 604, the electrical facilities, what needed to be taken care of in that space too. They had a flight of stairs that didn't have a handrail on it, and they had a GFCI circuit in the kitchen that wasn't operational. So this gives you an idea of what they get for that when they have an item that needs to be changed or repaired. And that works for outside also. Are there any questions on that?
Any questions?
I got a quick question again, sorry. So if you're inspecting these like every 3 years, or if we change it to every 2 years, say you just happen to drive by one of these properties that you see something that's not in compliance, or if somebody calls you and tells you, hey, you know, such and such address, this isn't in compliance, can you just go there or make an appointment to go there and check it out? Or do you have to wait until they're up for renewal?
There's provisions for us to be able to, if we see a violation, in order to actually revoke the certificate.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that section?
Okay, I'll move on to the next one. If everything passes inspection and everything's good, then this is what is issued for their certificate of compliance. Are there any questions on that?
Good.
Okay, I'll move on to the next one then. This here is a letter that gets sent out if they go beyond their time that they're supposed to have an inspection. So we send this letter out along with all of these forms you see on the right-hand side also get sent to them for them to get registered before they're taken out of the program altogether. Any questions on that?
So if a renter is taken out of the program, what's the procedure? What do you do? What's the follow-up from that point?
I've got a couple more forms yet that you'll
Okay.
see. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's all
I
right.
do have one, I do have a question.
Sure.
It's up to the owner of the building to remember that this is the time that I need to get it re-inspected and to call and make an appointment?
That's correct. However, in our computer program, there's a time set up to when that date ends. So they will get letters before the end of that date.
Yeah, it does seem like if you could give them a letter to make them aware in the beginning.
Yep.
That it's time to get re-inspected and you have this many days to do it.
Yep, this is that letter.
Okay.
And in our new program that we have, it automatically puts this out.
Okay.
This here is a rental registration program removal request. So they can pull this off in line too if they want to or wish to be taken out of the program. This is at their disposal also.
No, I'm assuming that if they are taking themselves out of the program, it's because they are no longer going to be renting that property?
Yeah, maybe they've moved into it or, you know, maybe it's, yeah, there's
being sold.
It's being, well, if it's being sold, actually what happens in that case, most of the time I've been being contacted before then and the property owners that are there buying the house, I've re-registered it. I haven't had any do this, but if somebody else is buying it, yes, then this would also be filled out to take them out of the program permanently. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Are you done, Steve?
I got one more letter I'm going to show you.
Okay.
And this is a notice of unregistered rental and enforcement letter. This is an actual letter that went out to an actual homeowner in the city that was renting to a house and is not in the rental program. And you can see that it talks about the ordinance and the inspections and the $100 fee that for the enforcement letter. And then it talks about the charges followed up by a second notice and then the vacate charge. And this owner at this time is working with us to get things right. So they've registered I've done a follow-up inspection, which has multiple violations. So they will be getting another letter of the violations that are to come with that. But this is the start of this, and they paid all the fees and never said anything about them at all. And they've been very cooperative. Any questions on that? Okay. That's all I have. If there's any other questions for Kelly or myself.
Any other questions, council?
Just to kind of follow up one, what are some of the more egregious health and safety violations have you come across since you've been doing these inspections? Just kind of in general.
Well, that violation that I showed you, that house had a bad furnace in it, and the occupants, 2 children and a mother and father, had carbon monoxide poisoning to 14% in their blood.
Yeah.
And it has no smoke detectors. It has no CO detectors. And there's a lot of issues with it.
Are CO detectors required?
Yes. If there's gas appliances or a garage is hooked to it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting up with the technology.
You did all right.
Miscues.
Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Heather, do you want to poll council, see if there's anything other they want to talk about?
Sure, I can do that. Let's start with Councilmember Bachman,
Nope, nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Beaton. You're muted, Linda.
I did receive a phone call from a resident over on the north side that is very disappointed in the fact that we don't have any signs up by Man-Made Lake. People aren't picking up after their dogs. There's some trees being cut still that look like some sort of illegal activity is going on there, I suppose. So I don't know what we can do about it, but I do agree that posting signs would be an excellent start, that they're not supposed to be littering and they have to pick up after their dogs. And people really need to be reminded that they don't have the right to go in and cut trees down on public property like that.
Councilmember Sipsick.
I don't think I have anything. I'm gonna spare Doug and wait for Josh to bring up the blight. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Grabowski.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Martin Pontiac.
Yeah, I was just wondering how we're doing on hiring another firefighter and EMS person.
Currently, we are in the process of hiring. We have 2 applicants currently, both are firefighter 1, 2 and EMT certified. So that process will close out, I believe, towards the 28th, end of the month. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Szymanski.
I just wanted to mention that I did see that the sidewalk plows have been out and doing a pretty good job of getting some of the snow off of the sidewalks.
And Mayor Zelinski.
I have nothing further. I want to thank everybody. A nice discussion on the topics tonight. With that, meeting's adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.